What's up, guys? It's Josh from Cardfight Empire here today with another one of our top 8 contestants from Bushy Atlanta Regionals 2 weekends ago, I believe it was now. But this is also another sleeper deck that you guys really, really wanted to see, and he was kind enough to come show it to you guys, so I'll let him introduce himself a little further.
Hey guys, it's Eliseo here. Yeah, I went into this regionals time around playing Grand Blue, and I decided to go with my trusted. Let me see if I can get this working. Seven Seas, not Grade One Rush Seven Seas, actual Seven Seas. I'm not a big fan of the Grade One, but I've just played this deck for a while, and it's my favorite deck. I went into this regionals trying to prove a point that they can hit us for Night Rose, they can hit us for the Grade One, but we're still going to be able to play the game, and I feel like I did that.
Well, awesome, awesome. Do you want to talk a little more, delve in a little more into what you thought about the event or your thoughts on that with them switching it from Jacksonville to Atlanta, kind of like the last moment?
Well, as far as the event goes, I didn't have too much of an issue with it. The drive definitely changed. It went from a 4-hour drive. I'm coming down from South Florida, so it went from a 4-hour drive to about an 8-hour drive. That was a little harsh, but we've gone to Atlanta before. It wasn't too bad. I liked the judges there this time around. The last time we went, I remember a few of us got into a bit of a quarrel. At the very end, there was a little bit of an issue as far as matches and points, but what's to be expected? It was a last minute change. I'm pretty sure not all of the judges that they wanted to were able to get there, so it kind of looked like they were a bit understaffed. But outside of that, I think it was still a pretty solid event.
Awesome. I definitely agree. I think that the judges did the best that they could for what they were given. And Alex, the head organizer, and Christian, the head judge, I think they did a really good job. Usually, I haven't like experienced being with Alex before, except for Alex Zhang, the other head organizer usually.
Mhm.
But I'm pretty experienced with Christian, and every time he's been head judge, it's been a good experience for me. So I'm really happy about that. But do you want to talk about why you decided to play 70s, regular 70s today? Because that's kind of like a really out of the box thing that a lot of people wouldn't know, like why you did that.
Well, I decided with regular 7Cs. Like I said, it was kind of to prove a point with the recent additions to the limited list. We lost the stand trigger, we lost the grade one for, honestly, in my opinion, completely reasons completely unrelated. The stand trigger because Night Rose was really really strong, and the grade one because the grade one rush was is a degenerate deck that doesn't really allow for um, fun, I guess you could say, in the competitive format. You go in there and you don't let other GB decks essentially play. Outside of that, it's just the deck I preferred. Even when Night Rose came out and it was at its peak, I really, really liked Seven Seas. I felt like it did a better job utilizing the drop zone, and for the most part, I really like the Grade Three.
Okay. And yeah, I think 70s probably has, I want to say, better multi-attacks than Night Rose, just like out of the drop zone purely if you don't have like the grade 1 Night Rose card.
Mhm.
If you're just working out of the drop zone purely, I think 70s has more attacks if I'm not mistaken. Um, but yeah, it seems like you did a really good job. So you definitely proved your point. Like a lot of people were like, just kind of overlooking you for like a minute because people were like, oh, what made top eight? And people were like, oh, Kagero, 7Cs, and people were like, oh, grade one 7Cs rush. And then later, people were like, wait, he wasn't playing grade one 7Cs rush? What? So I think it threw a lot of people off guard. Do you want to talk about like your matchups that you had, or like do you remember any of them? Or I know it's been 2 weeks since the event.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't really remember all of my matchups. I know I played against Dark Irregulars, Luard, Battle Sisters. That was terrifying. I played against Blaster, ZTB. Obviously, I managed to avoid that all the way through until top eight. Thank God that was also a very difficult matchup. Eradicators And honestly, I think that's about it. After that, it was mostly repeats outside of the top 8, in which I played the Harry player. That was an incredible fight.
Awesome, awesome. Well, what was your most difficult fight in your opinion? What was your easiest fight?
My most difficult fight definitely had to be ZTB. It was actually a player from my locals. I've fought him many many times. Just I hadn't really got used to playing against ZTB, and not going against it throughout the entire tournament up until day 2. It threw me off guard, and he got the one up on me. So still a good fight on him because it came down to 5K shield.
Oh
So I
wow.
think it was really really good fight. And then as far as the easiest that goes to the Vanguard game, he was great stuck. That really doesn't count. Outside of that, it was Dark Irregulars because another local player of mine, mainly plays Dark Irregulars, and he essentially taught me that, if you can afford to stay at grade 2, do so. Seven Seas is one of the few decks that can actually do that, and it didn't allow him to fill up his soul as fast as he would have liked. So by the time he was able to go into his strides, he couldn't turbo the deck. He didn't have enough for Blade Wings to do their thing and be defensive. So it was more or less an easy match for me.
And I assume you're talking about Xavier there. Sounds
Yeah,
like him.
Xavier.
Yeah, there we go. Alrighty, well, awesome, awesome. So, do you want to go over to your deck and I guess start explaining like your deck, so that the people can be appeased by the glory of Seven Seas, the real Seven Seas?
Sure. All right. Let's see. There we go. Okay. Right off the bat, I'm gonna try to get a little close up here. My preferred starter is Peter the Ghosty. I actually do play Grenache, obviously, for the counter charge, but I do like to play Peter as the main starter. The only time that will change is if I'm playing against something like Vanquisher. I don't want to mill. I don't want to give them, things in the drop zone like right off the bat that they can bind. That new starter is terrifying. Outside of that matchup, Peter is good because he can fill up the drop zone. It's an extra card to hand. He fills up the soul, which is very very useful. Not just for things like gouache, but other cards in the deck that I use. And then obviously I have Grenache here. Just free counter charge too. It's incredible. I can call him out essentially anytime I want with any stride. The break ride helps with that. He becomes a 10k boost. What's not to love about the guy. Then, as far as triggers, it's a bit old-fashioned. The original Rough Seas Banshee, move to Soul Draw. You can reuse this over and over and over again with things like Wash. It'll pay for itself. It's an additional card to hand. Even if I just go into the regular Nightmist stride, it's a draw 1. So very, very useful. And then, more old-fashioned. I'm running for Night Spirit, just for more crits. The funny thing is that both those crits have actually been with me since I built my first Grand Blue deck way back in, what was it, set 2, I think we finally got released. And then 4 of the 7 Seas crit, 12 crits total. I don't run the stand, make the ghosty. You can run the single copy. It does come in clutch with a play with Negrosonger. I prefer not to. I want to try to kill my opponent as fast as possible. And then for heal Dr. Rouge, I do not run the new heal trigger for the G-Guard, mostly due to nostalgia. I know I probably should. It helps, fill the drop zone and also gets rid of some grade 1s or, just get an extra card to hand that might help the guard. But, I like my triggers as they were and, panned out okay. And then, sorry, it's a bit sloppy. For stride fodder, we don't really want to discard too many cards from hand in this deck. There's no really other grade 1 that we want to put into the deck. We have enough toolbox as is. The grade 2s in this deck essentially put in most of the work. One second. Playing for Dancing Cutlass. So this is a surprisingly really good card. When we started getting the support, I completely overlooked Dancing Cutlass, but Peter, Counterblast 1, Move to Soul. By the time you get to grade 2, you already have the 2 soul. He replaces himself in your hand, and you make sure that you can be, reusing Peter with Obadiah. If you had to ride a Perfect Guard, you now have one set up in the drop zone. If you had to ride one of your other more useful grade ones, you can also put that back into the drop zone. Like I said, you don't lose anything from hand. Four of the countercharging Perfect Guard. This deck can do a lot with one Counterblast. Obviously Night Rose can do more with a single one. You can use the same one over and over again. But as opposed to Night Rose, in this deck, a single Counterblast is much more important. We don't have the rearguard spamming abilities that often. I run 2 grade 2s that can call themselves or something else out. But for the most part, outside of those, we don't really do much. We rely on the strides, and essentially every stride needs at least one Counterblast. And then 2 1-ofs. I have Sword Mimic over here. He is a 10k booster GB, and then if he's hollowed, he gives himself he gives another unit plus 3k. He combos with another card in the deck that I have, make sure I get my columns, and then just the 10k is very useful. And then he took the place of my second Nightcrow. Rather unfortunate that he got hit, but even with just one, he still runs okay. He makes columns, gets rid of cutlasses once they're done, being useful. Going on to the grade 2s. 3 Negro Rooks, 16k attacker, 11k attacker, GB 16 if they're hollow. Power play is very good. 21 if you call them out with a break ride. Just beat stick, very good. I run 2 Slash Shade. This is probably the MVP of the grade 2s. All the other ones work really well. It's just that this one is pre-GB. If I'm able to get a good, Peter off, and just I can rush my opponent very early, and it kind of allows me to play a bit of a grade 2 game, because if I happen to mill one specific grade 3, I can choose not to ride from hand and superior ride from drop. It also helps me get past if I'm grade stuck in that same scenario. And then I'm running 2 Columbard. On boost or on swing, if it's boosted, Counterblast 1, it revives another unit. It can actually revive itself. This is what allows for for this deck to match Night Rose as far as how many attacks I'm going to be getting off in the turn. It also works really well with Negrosonger, seeing as I can call it, get extra power, and then it can call something else after the fact. I'm running 3 Cannoneers. This went up recently simply because, a lot of rear guards are, I want to say they are toolbox. The rear guards are very important as is, and I want to be able to make sure that I can get rid of the most important pieces as fast as possible. So he's there for that purpose, and then the extra draw, allows me to build some hands and, go on the defensive if I need to. And then my last grade 2 is King Serpent. This is the one that will combo with Sword Mimics. Plus 3k will make him 11. That way I don't have to retire him for anything else. He'll swing, he'll hit a column. On revive, he will countercharge and soul charge 1. Building the soul is pretty important in this deck. Our stronger G Guardians require soul. Gouache requires soul. So it is kind of important to be able to rebuild that up outside of just using the crits. And then grade 3s. I'm running 4 of the Break Ride Nightmist. Favorite card, definitely in the deck just by art and the fact that even after so long, it's still very useful. This grade 3, I also really like it because anytime that I'm up against a 7C's grade 1, knowing that I have the Break Ride, I can drop a lot of cards from hands. They're going to be coming back. I gain power. I think Amon has actually come out, and it helps a lot with that too. Also, against any other decks that are like, oh, I don't want to put you to GB, I still have a limit break ability. It's not going to affect me as much. And then last grade 3's Pledgeton. He can superior ride himself at the start of the ride phase if I have a grade 2 or higher 7C's Vanguard. He's very, very good to help me out of, grade stuck if I happen to have Slash 8 as my Vanguard. He allows for superior brake riding from the drop zone if I need to go off on a big turn. Just very, very useful. And his on-ride ability will revive one other unit, so, making sure that I always have enough pieces on the board to, go off. Okay, going into my strides. One Obadiah. I don't always get the pieces that I want or need in the drop zone. He's there for that purpose. And then if I've managed to Soul Blast Peter, he will revive Peter. I can use him all over again. Essentially 5 cards out of the deck, extra card in hand. Very, very useful, although I do like when I do not have to go into him as my first stride. I run 2 of the Nightmist stride. Like I said, this deck can do quite a bit with the 1 Counterblast. That 1 Counterblast can even give me a Columbard and a booster, or 2 Banshees if I need extra hand, 2 Cannoneers, all the good stuff. Really nothing else I'd take him out for at the moment, but with that new Night Rose stride coming out, that's probably going to change. For Gouache, I don't normally build enough soul to actually use him twice. There are some scenarios where he is preferred first turn stride. And then, second time around, he's just going to be calling out multiple cards for big numbers. Just good for massive calling, power plays at the very end of the game. But, again, I don't get to use him as often as I'd like. And then my main playmaker in this deck is Negro Songer. Now, the way my deck used to be played, at least, was I would power up my rear guards with a break ride, go into Nightmist, call out 2 stand triggers, power up my rear guards again, kill them off with the Night Crows, they go back in the deck, and just keep cycling until the very, very end. I would go into Gouache, make sure I had all 4 stands back in the deck. That can't happen anymore. Instead, what I do now, I like to be able to flip up as many cards in my G zone as possible, go into a break ride turn, multi attack. I want to have them at 4 or 5 damage at this point. And then Songer will come in at the very end. If I have 2 Counterbusts open, I will choose to call a Columbard, for an extra attack. I will choose to call a Negro Rook if I feel they don't have enough to guard, because he gives whatever he calls plus 5k for every face-up card in the G-Zone. Generally speaking, I have him given about 30k, sometimes more, very rarely less. Okay, and then 1 Dragoot. This is really, really good in case I don't have, say, enough Cannoneers to wipe, the more important pieces on my opponent's board. Its ability is Counterblast 2, pitch a card, revive units equal to the amount that I have on the board, and then for each one that has a hollow ability, my opponent has to choose one of their rear guards and retire it. This is really, really good, combined with the break ride turn, because essentially 2 for your rear guards as is, and then Counterblast 2, I can revive, say, a Negro Rook, Grenache for the counter charge. It'll pay essentially for the cost of the ability. And then if their board is completely empty by the end of its ability, I get to draw a card. So it essentially pays for itself, and more often than not is a board wipe. Very useful, especially against things like Blaster. 1 GB8, on stride, I get to revive a full board, plus 10. Very useful. With Columbards, again, multi-attack, and then the Vanguard attacks, revive Slash Aids, just multi-attack, and extra power. One of the flipping G-Guard. This is, like I said, just to try to fill up my G-Zone as fast as possible. It helps me get to GB8, extra plays. I want to try to kill them as fast as possible. And if I have to go into my GB8, this will guarantee that I will get there, within a decent amount of time. And then I can guard with extra cards from the drop zone. It's essentially a 41k shields, always. I don't run any regular perfect guards, so I can't, get around guard restrict like that, but it's useful nonetheless. It does cost a Soul Blast, so like I said, important to have it enough for the cost. And then, oh, sorry, I always forget this one. 2 mode. So Soul Blast 1, it's plus 5k for every 5 cards drop zone up to 15. It has saved me many times. And reorg getting very, very big. And gets 40k essentially on first G guard is, just so life saving. Especially against things like Ward, their Vanguard. Was it Drag Strider? Swings generally 51 every time. And Dragon, 5 action, G guard, 31k shield, mills 2 cards, toolbox, and flipping purposes of the GG card. And yeah, that's about it.
Awesome, awesome. Literally, like, I was so surprised by so many of the techs in your deck. They're really, really solid. Definitely shows that you have a really good like understanding of the deck and good choices that you made for good reasons, and not just like oh man, this guy got lucky and getting to the top 8 or something like that. Or he added like a 2 round bye carry him. Like, definitely put in the work to get where you were, and you definitely deserved your spot in top 8. So it's an honor to see your deck profile. And it's like really refreshing to see a deck profile where it's not like just the norm of things. But did you have any shoutouts that you wanted to give?
Definitely shout outs to the others, I guess, sleeper decks that made it into top 8. The Harry player, he was the one that knocked me out. Very good fights. Just it was, like you said, refreshing to see something that was out of the norm. So, I didn't feel too bad getting knocked out by him. Ed, the Aquaforce player, I really wanted to fight him. I always like playing against Aquaforce. I find it comes down to kind of like a boxing match. I hit them as hard as I can. They hit me, and it just comes down to who was able to pull off their combos best. And then I'm a One Piece fan, so Marines, Pirates going at it. Always a fan. Um, Outside of that, what was his name? I think it was the one who won the whole thing. I can't remember his name. He's a really good guy. I
Matthew
was
N?
playing ZTB. Matthew? Yes, that
Yeah,
was him.
ZTB.
Uh, yeah, I met him in Jacksonville for the first time. Just always really good fights. Very good technical player. He does plays that throw me off. Generally speaking, I like to say that after I see a matchup so many times, I feel like I know what the player is going to do because it tends to be, you know, these are the best plays. That's why we do it. And then every now and then, they might do something strange. He always does something strange. Always keeps me on my toes. I never know what he's going to pull off. And it's always just a thrill to be able to fight him. I didn't get to fight him this tournament, but definitely next time around. Shout out to him. And then shout out to a few others that didn't make it to top 8. Like I said, there was some debate at the end of day 2. There was some issuing, I guess, with the matches and the points. Fellow fighter Egan, we feel that he should have made top 8, but like I said, we were not 100% sure. There was some weird stuff going on with the systems. It was late in the day. But yeah, Egan, he was my only loss. Day 2, my only loss. ZTB, hard to play against. Xavier for, helping me be prepared for Dark Irregulars. He wasn't able to show up to this tournament, but Adam Mahia, he topped in Jacksonville earlier this year.
Yeah, he got fifth with Brave, right?
5th with Brave, yeah. The reason for my shout out is that he is also another one of those players that he doesn't ever really leave you much room to breathe. He does his plays, they're solid, and you have to be ready for anything throws at you. So he definitely helped me get prepared for that. And the last shout out is going to go to Zavani Grant, also topped last regionals in Jacksonville with Bermuda Triangle. Didn't get to make top 8 this time around, but he is by far, I think, the toughest opponent I've ever had to play.
Yeah, I think it's funny because none of the top 3 players from Jax, we were all there, but none of us made top 8. But definitely we were all like playing different things. I mean, I was playing Luard. But I'm not sure what Zavani was playing, if he was still playing Bermudas. I know Nick was had switched up to ZTB instead of playing like Chaos like he was playing. So
Yeah. Zavani was playing Bermudas both times. I think Prisms in Jacksonville and a unique, I want to say, dual builds this time around. I don't know if he got unlucky. He went X2, so he was definitely up there. But people give him a little bit of grief for his attitude, but I just find it makes it a bit more of an interesting fight, at least for me.
fair, fair. Well, definitely we enjoyed having you on the channel today. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge on your Seven Seas deck. It was really a pleasure to interview you and kind of like delve a little more into your mindset and how you like to play the game and why that deck is your favorite deck. And definitely, with that being said, that has been our Seven Seas interview from Top 8 Atlanta. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys enjoyed it, leave me a like and a comment letting me know what you thought. Hit the subscribe button and the bell so that you can know when new videos get uploaded. And with that being said, this has been Josh from Cardfight Empire and Eliseo. And we're signing out, guys. See you in the next video.